Hello and welcome to Soul Steps. I'm David Gallagher. When I stepped away from a long career with an organization, I stepped out into the unknown. I wasn't stepping into another job. In fact, when I left the organization I had been with for 15 years, at, late 50s, I heard God say three things to me, and that's always a point of people wondering how God speaks to you, but I knew inside my heart that the Holy Spirit was saying to me, I want you to stop, be still, and be silent. Tough instructions for me as a very active visionary, go get it done, have a vision, have a mission, have a purpose. Very hard to stop and be still and be silent, but especially stop and be still. I was aware when I felt God was speaking that to me that one of the ways I was to stop and be still was I wasn't to go and get another regular full-time job. I was literally supposed to, in obedience, not do that. Now, I was fortunate enough to have money in the bank, some savings to live on for a while, which I did, until the time came that those monies were exhausted. And I had to trust God to provide for me. And I can say now, some years later, how faithful God has been providing work for me at different times to just provide income, provide in other ways that I never saw coming. Learning that God is my provider. Man is not, and a formal job will never be my provision. Now, everybody's different, and God calls his followers to different lessons and different places in life where he can teach us and instruct us the things he wants us individually to learn and know. And in my case, it was to stop and be still and not take on immediately regular employment. It has reminded me of the story of Elijah in 1 Kings chapters 16 and 17. And earlier then in that passage, it's Elijah, I want you to go and hide. And that was hiding from Ahab and Jezebel. I want you to go hide in this ravine by a brook. There'll be water there, but I'm going to instruct the ravens to feed you, to bring you food. Well, that's a stretch because I'd love to know what those ravens brought to him. I'm sure it wasn't real delicious, but it was enough to sustain him, keep him alive. Well, there was a famine that came then in chapter 17 of 1 Kings, and the brook dried up. And God's instruction to Elijah was, go to Zarephath, and there a widow is going to feed you. Well, Elijah goes. He immediately, when he gets to that little town, he encounters a widow there and asks her to bring him water. And she's there collecting some little sticks to go home, she told him, to prepare her last meal. Because not only does Elijah ask her for water, but then he says, go home and bring me some bread. And she says, oh, but you don't understand, sir. I'm collecting enough sticks to make a little tiny fire because all I have left is enough to make my son and me our last meal. Elijah says, I want you to go home. I want you to prepare me bread first. And then you will have enough bread to eat. And not only that, but your flour and your oil will never be done with. You will always have a supply of flour and oil to make bread. As long as this famine lasts, you're going to be fed. It's interesting to me that Elijah not being the gentleman that we all think he should have been, would have said, prepare you and your son some food first, and then bring me some. No, it was go take what little you have and make me bread first, and then make yours. But the promise is, you give and you will receive. You'll have enough. During the time that I did not have a normal, regular job, the other thing God called me to do was to continue giving. It wasn't to turn inward. It wasn't to hold on to what little I had. It was to continue giving. And God brought opportunities to me to meet other people's needs on this journey. So I watched him provide for me, but I was not to be the end of his provision. I was to be a conduit of his blessing to other people during this time. And that required not only the faith to believe that God was going to provide for my needs, but that he was going to provide enough for me so that I could pass the blessing on to other people. And I tried really hard to be obedient to do that when he showed me the people and the places that I could give. What's God trying to teach you today? What are the unique lessons that he wants you to take on board for you that will affect everybody around you? As he does a work in you, that work is not going to stop with you. It's going to carry on and touch all the people around you for his glory. Mine happened to be about work, provision, employment, or not, and then watching as he provided for me to be a conduit of blessing. And like that widow learned in the book of 1 Kings, she was obedient to the word of the Lord through Elijah to prepare his bread first. And by faith that what he told her would be true, that she would not go without, and she didn't. Trust God. Believe God to teach you what you need to learn so that everybody around you is blessed by it. Thanks for watching today. Thanks for remembering us in your prayers and your giving. And reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. If you have prayer requests or want to share a story about how God has been at work in your life, we'd love to hear about it. You can write us at hello@soulsteps.org. Thank you.